I don't know, like everything was falling apart, and like all of my dreams normally are like super realistic. Like it's not things that couldn't happen in real life. And this one was like, this seems silly, but like it just doesn't feel right.
Hello and welcome to the Free Outside podcast. I am sick for like the third time in 6 months. So actually I'm thinking about writing an article on Substack about are we just getting sick more often now, because I have like 4 athletes that I coach that are sick right now too. So it's just crazy. And I was poking around because when I do write on Substack, freeoutside.substack.com, check it out, subscribe, it's pretty cool. My voice sounds weird, but yeah, I was poking around looking at some research because I do like to dive into it, looking at some numbers and stuff, and it really does look like, at least worldwide, we are getting sick more often, at least anecdotally, N of 1, which if you read my Substack, I hate those type of experiments because that means you only get one person, and anecdotal research for how my mind works does not work for it. Anyways, it looks like we are getting sick more often. So probably we'll go into that on the Substack this week. All right, today's guest, it's a fun one. We talk with Helen Mino Faulkner, who, okay, think about this. Western states is really hard to get into. I've talked about that a few times. But you can get in one way by winning a golden ticket. So we've talked to a few golden ticket winners, like David Roach won a golden ticket, Will Murray won a golden ticket, Tara Dower won a golden ticket. Who else have we had? David Roach won a golden ticket. Jeff McGavro won a golden ticket. Yeah, we've talked to a lot of them because, I mean, this is the place to be. But imagine winning a golden ticket and then turning it down, and then a second golden ticket and turning it down. Well, that's what Ellen did. And it's pretty cool because we get into it and we talk about how she's always thought Leadville 100, which is quite a good race. I mean, that's how David Roach basically blew up his whole career, by setting the course record out there. She talks about how that has always been in her mind the goal 100 miler. Even so far as to say she tried to do UTMB, which is a 100 miler in Europe, circumnavigates Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc, and she had to DNF. So it was like, why am I just denying this? I've felt my whole life that Leadville 100 should be the race that I do my first 100 miler at. So she's turned down 2 golden tickets. She recently got one at Tarwera down in New Zealand, where she ran a cool 100K. I talked to her while she was staying out there on a surf vacation. We hit on all topics, from a 200-mile route from Tahoe to Yosemite, which is interesting. I mean, having done basically that entire route on the PCT. We also talk about what her post would be on Instagram if this hasn't happened. She had to DNF because glitter got in her eye and all that stuff. So this is the Free Outside podcast. It's brought to you by Garage Grown Gear. It's a marketplace for small businesses, anything from food, backpacks, hoodies. A lot of it's just like small businesses, garage grown, like made in your garage. So shop there. I got a headlamp there. I really like people there. We interviewed Lloyd on the podcast. Yeah, they're supporting the show. And then we also have Jaunty. So big announcement. They just came out with sun hoodies. So how apparel lines work, or there's a fall, winter, and then a spring, summer line. Spring, summer just hit. Sun hoodies are out. Check them out, jaunty.com. I think I've only raced in their sun hoodies for like the past 2 or 3 years. So support us, just me, by supporting and shopping there. And let's get to the episode because I'm sick. Today on the podcast, we have Helen Mino Faulkner, fresh off 4th place at the Tarwera 100K. And so first off, everyone is wondering, was it hard to turn down another golden ticket?
Honestly, no. I had thought about it a little bit, but I was like laying in bed, like, and after like long races, it's hard to sleep. I was laying there and I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to run that far quite yet. So then I gave it back.
Yeah, was it different this time because Hoka's your sponsor now too? Since they sponsor the whole series?
Not necessarily. I had actually signed with Hoka like the week before CCC, which was my first golden ticket, and so I turned it down then, and then this time too. I feel like I kind of already had planned out my summer, and I said it 2 years ago that I didn't want States to be my first 100 miler, and I think I still feel that way. So
Totally. Yeah. And I heard you say on another podcast that you didn't want to race or run a race to qualify for another one. So you're really holding true to your guns there.
yeah. Yeah, I would have come here or like to New Zealand whether or not it was a golden ticket race. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I mean, the really cool thing too is that you've gotten to race in a bunch of different places. What was it like racing in New Zealand?
it was so cool. I have never been here and I haven't honestly spent like a whole lot of time in the Southern Hemisphere. I've like been to Argentina. But other than that, it is so, so nice coming to summer in the middle of winter. Um, yeah, it's been incredible, and, like, I feel like training-wise, it kinda made sense just because it's not super hilly, and so you don't have to, like, be able to run big mountains in February, so I feel like for where I live too in Truckee and, like, coming to the Southern Hemisphere this early, it kinda worked out.
Yeah, big time. And the course looked very diverse as well. Like there's redwoods out there, there's roads, there's a little bit of everything. What was the course like?
Yeah, so we started, like, just running through some grass fields. I think we were actually on a golf course. That's, like, what it felt like. It, like, felt very cross country, and then, like, you kind of get into the jungle for a little bit, and then you're yeah, on a bunch of, like, gravel roads for probably the first marathon, and then around, like, 50K, you start getting into the jungle more, and my favorite part of the whole trail is, like, probably, like, between 53K and 58K because they made their own trail, like, the trail had not existed a few weeks before, and so it was, like, pretty slippery and muddy and just, like, kinda hard to find, like, where you were going, and I just thought it was so fun. And then, yeah, you were back in the jungle and then through the redwoods, and then at the end, you were, like, running along lakes and then through, like, sulfur beds to the end of town, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really cool. I had loose plans to try to get out there for it this year, but other things on the schedule just made it not happen. But I know all the pictures and stuff is like, oh, summer would be so good. I live in Montana, so it's like
Yeah.
-20 here. Yeah. So how do you train through the winter? You live in Truckee, for kind of a winter race, and I think this is a question a lot of people have because it's like the hardest time of year to get miles in.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this year, winter hasn't been great until actually I got here. Like, I think it started finally snowing a bunch in February, but I cross country ski, I skate ski, and so I feel like that translates to like runnable races a little bit better because you still get like the aerobic benefits, but it's kind of hard with hilly running because you don't have like the impacts of downhill. And so I
Mhm.
feel like my legs get wrecked a little bit more. But I don't know, like, I honestly hadn't been running that much. I think I was mostly running, like, mid-50-mile weeks, and just, like, knowing that it's early and it's February and I don't need to be running, like, 100-mile weeks, because normally I don't run winter races, but I think it worked out fine. Like, I
Totally.
have found that, like, I do a lot better at races if I go in, like, more like, if I could go in overtrained and not stoked, I'm not going to do as well as, like, if my fitness maybe isn't quite there, but, like, I'm just so excited to run. I feel like it usually works out a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, might be your secret weapon, whether it's like glitter or stoke or just being excited. How do you how do you have that going into a race? Is it just balancing a calendar or is it picking races and things that really inspire you or diving into the like accessories like glitter, sunglasses? What's kind of the strategy that people can do to be excited versus overwhelming nervousness?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been running since I was, like, 14, and I feel like when you start tricking yourself even from, like, a young age, like, my coach would always tell me when I was nervous, she's like, "No, you're just excited." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, like, those feelings are similar enough that, like, now I feel like whenever I start getting nervous, I'm like, 'No, I'm just excited.'" And so I think part of it is, like, choosing races that I'm stoked on, um, and just, like, knowing, because I mean, we all know it's gonna be hard. It doesn't matter how fast or how slow you run or if you have a good day or a bad day, like, no matter what, if you run 60 miles, it is hard. And so I think just, like, remembering that, like, that's literally why you're there, is to have a hard time, and that doesn't mean it can't be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have as much fun as anyone out there too.
Yeah.
Have all do you have fun at all of your races, or is it like an intention that you start with, or do you put on a face even if it's not going well? Are there strategies you use to trick yourself in the middle too?
Always. I feel like even when you don't like, when it starts getting really hard, even if you just tell yourself, you're like, "I'm having a great time," and, like, you just smile through it no matter what. Like, I feel like you're able to trick yourself or even I don't know, I, like, got really hot pretty early because once again, I live in winter and I pretty much refuse to heat train, and so I was like I kept saying to myself, I was like, "You're really fast and you are cold. You're cold." And so I feel like even if you're not, like, you could kinda trick yourself through it.
Yeah, I use the same thing with the cold here. It's like, just imagine your skin's on fire. It's a lot
Yeah,
warmer. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, there's all kinds of little strategies. So, excuse me, someone sent in a question that I thought would be fun to ask, and so he wanted me to ask, if Western states had a really big prize money, would you have done it? Would you have considered doing it?
No, because honestly, like, with my, like, bonus structure, like, within Hoka, it is a lot of money if
Totally,
I
yeah.
win state, so, I mean, kind of, but I don't know, these races are too long, like, I think if I were in a sport for money, I would have not chosen trail running, quite honestly.
Yeah, totally. I had on, Kelly Newland a couple weeks ago, and we talked about that too. It's just like, there's gotta be more there, purpose, intention, and actual passion because it is, like, the worst business to go into if you're just in this for the money.
Yeah, and it's probably not gonna go that well.
Totally, yeah. I mean, someone should be a professional juggler instead of a trail runner. You could probably make way more money doing that.
Probably.
Yeah. So how did you get into trail running? I know kinda you ran in college, but then took a gap and yeah, what was the journey back to running?
Yeah, well, so I ran 3 years in college, and then I quit my junior year, and I was working at a running store in Reno, and all of my coworkers ran ultras, and, like, I just remember everyone was wearing ultras and toe socks, and I thought it was, like, the I was like, "This has to be some sort of cult." Like, everyone take their foot out of their shoes and, like, wiggle their toes at me, I'm like, "You people are nuts." But then they got me, and
Yeah, it's
so
a cult.
yeah.
Welcome.
And so I started running with them, and I was like, like, I don't know, maybe I'll run something longer." And so then, this is 2018, and so I signed up for my first 50K at the end of summer, and it went well. I won, and it was fun, but I remember finishing and, like, crying and being like, "My feet hurt so bad, that was stupid." And then I shortly moved to Truckee right after, and then I was like, "I can't run here." And it was, like, snowing, and I was like, "No, I'm done." And then I just didn't run for, like, 2 years. I had just never go back into it, and that was kind of it. I, like, found other things to do, and I, like, got really into yoga, and then COVID happened, and the yoga studio that I, like, put all of my time into was closed, and I was like, "You know, I gotta figure out something." So I was like, maybe I'll start running again." And, like, a few of my friends did, and, like, they don't compete or run races, it was just like, we're gonna go out and, like, run these cool trails and run to the tops of mountains, and I feel like that's what got me back into it, like, was trying to keep up with my friends and, like, being able to go to the tops of mountains because I don't like, running in college, that's just, like, not what we did. Um and then I didn't think I was gonna race again. And luckily, like, that year, there weren't any races, so it didn't really matter. And then, like, 2021, I was still running, like, a decent amount. Like, I had run 30 miles on my birthday and was, like, doing trails, and then, I was like, it'd be nice if, like, my training had some direction."
Yeah.
And then I started signing up for races.
Yeah. Did you have a coach? Did you get a coach around
Mhm.
that time?
Yep, I've had a coach for I've never not had a coach, pretty much. My when I signed up for that first 50K, I think I just posted on Strava, like, "Does anyone know how to train for this?" And my old assistant coach from college, his name's Rick Floyd. He used to be, like, a pro triathlete and then got super into mountain running, and he was like, "Oh, I could help you." And he's been my coach ever since. Even when I quit, I'll, like, text him again. I'm like, I think I'm ready to run again." And so he's
He
still my coach now.
cool. He's just like always knows you're gonna eventually come back. It's
Yeah. I think maybe in, like, that 2 years, I had, like, a 6-week period where I was like, "I'm gonna run again," and it lasted 6 weeks.
yeah, I mean, fair enough. But it is so interesting too in that area and similar here in Bozeman, having lived in both. The ethos and the vibe is very much like we're going out for a full day of like running, but it's kind of like exploring, having fun. We're gonna pack like cool snacks. We don't really care about pace. Some people don't have a watch. It's the most genuine and the coolest way to get into it versus, like, coming up in racing too. I can understand how you got your stoke back for running.
Yeah, I feel like that was a big part of it, just college was so different, and I feel like I, like, really, really lost my love for running, and I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna ever enjoy this again," and, like, it's kinda crazy to see now, like, that is what brings me the most joy in my life is the thing that I thought was making me miserable.
Yeah, totally. Was college is it just like the burnout culture kinda thing of tied to times and workouts and just very little joy in it?
Yeah, and, like, I've thought about this a lot, and I think it's obviously, like, easy to see when I'm, like, 28 and out of it, but I think a big reason that I ran in college was, like, ego driven and because I wanted people to think that I was good or I wanted people to think that I was fast, and so I was like, "Oh, I have to run D1 so, like, everyone thinks that I can run fast." And, like, that was kind of my reasoning behind it, and I feel like in high school, I was stoked on running, and then I feel like I kind of lost that because I had tied my identity so closely to it, and I was like, "Well, now it feels like I have to do this," and it's not like I get to run every day, it's I have to run every day, and I think that just, like, really showed in my college career because I was hurt all the time. I was not fast, I was not any good, and, yeah, I think that was, like, a big thing.
Big time, especially if your whole identity and why you went to a school is not working out and it's actually pushing you down. That's not a fun spot to be in.
No.
Yeah. So I wanna move into more of maybe living in Truckee and stuff because I think it's such an interesting thing and having, like, the worst winter that I've ever lived through here in Bozeman. I think about it a lot too. But what is the value of getting to do, like, Nordic skiing, skate skiing, winter sports, summer sports, and have seasons? Because I personally find it really important, but, yeah, I wanna hear kind of why you don't move down to Auburn or be able to run year round and what the value of living somewhere it's hard to run half the years.
Yeah, I think, like, it keeps me stoked because then
Mhm.
it's like once the snow starts melting and you, like, figure out, like, "Oh, this trail's melted or this one isn't melted yet," and, like, "Oh, well, if the sun hits here and then I'll be able to get up high, like, maybe by this time," and you, like, get to try to figure it out. I feel like it's kind of fun and, like, when you get to run year round, I feel like that's kind of what causes me to be burnt out and, like, lose the stoke a little bit more and, like, Nordic skiing is so fun and so hard in its own right, and, like, I don't know, I feel like you get the same connection to the outdoors as, like, I do trail running with Nordic skiing, and there's just a lot more variety because like, I love downhill skiing too, and, I very, very recently decided I wanna get into, like, more skimo stuff, and so, like, that was really fun. Yeah, and then whenever you get to, like, travel to dirt 'cause, I mean, dirt is still so accessible from Truckee, like, I can get to Auburn in an hour or Reno in 40 minutes and it's super easy. Um, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
mixing it up is good.
Big time. Yeah, I think this thing that maybe some people or pros in any sport get is just so in the weeds of their single sport, and you miss out a lot on those like skate skiing. I'm not very good, but I love it because it's like the learning curve. Like I get so much better every single time I go because and it's really hard and my heart rate's really high, but it's like being an adult and learning something new is not that common, I guess. So I think it's really fun.
Yeah, I think so too, and yeah, I don't know. I like the seasonality. I think that it helps me, like, stay uninjured too, and also, like, since I been running since I was, like, 14. I feel like that probably has some impact, so even if I don't have, like, big periods of running, it comes back pretty easily, it seems like.
Yeah, I think so. I think the base is always there, especially if you're good to your body throughout the other sports too. But I want to go into kind of the journey to becoming a pro athlete. So we kind of talked about the journey to racing and moving up in distance, but yeah, what was it like from doing that first 50K and leaving running and coming back? How did the journey to becoming a sponsored athlete go?
Yeah, I am honestly so, so stoked that, like, this is my life. I never in a million years thought, like, this would be my reality, and, like, even talking to my coach because he knew all the girls that I ran with, he was like, "Yep, you were probably the last person any of us would have picked to become a professional runner." I was like, "Yep, that is really fair." Um, and so I since I live in Truckee, I got to run Broken Arrow. It was, like, the October year, and I did pretty well. I got 2nd, and that was, like, my 3rd 50K, and then I ran a couple of other races, and then it was actually the North Face Athlete Development Program. There was, like, an application that I filled out, and I got chosen, and so that was, like, the first step. Because something that I've always, like, stuck to is I don't want another job if I'm not getting paid to do that job, and so I wasn't really interested in, like, being a, like, half sponsored athlete or, like, just getting gear or whatever. Like, I just didn't really find it worth it for me because, like, I worked enough that I could pay for all of those things, and so it just didn't really make sense unless someone was actually going to pay me. And so, I don't know, the ADP athlete development program didn't pay very well, but I am glad that I held out through that because even though, like, it didn't necessarily work out for me, I feel like once you have a sponsor, it is a little bit easier to get sponsored. And then I ran Speedgo in 2023, and I was actually wearing Hoka's, but I ripped all the letters off, and someone, I think it was Chris Hollis, like, saw me at the end, and it went well. I think I ran the fastest time. I don't I think I have the CR for that course.
Didn't fact check. We'll give it to you.
Yeah, okay. I, like, got 9th overall, um, and someone saw me, and then Hoka actually reached out to me, and they were like, "Hey, we saw you're wearing Hoka's. Have you ever considered being sponsored by Hoka?" I said, "No, did not know that was an option. Cool." And then, like, before CCC, I was, like, kind of reaching out to other people, but Hoka ended up being my only option, so it worked out really well. I'm stoked, and those were the shoes I was wearing anyways, so
Yeah, nice. So just mostly performance driven was what the was mostly driven by. I think Rod Farbarb was also in the
yep.
development program. So
Yeah, that's how I know Rod, and it's funny because, like, we went to another team camp, and I was like, "I'm pretty sure the last time I was at a team camp, I was with you too, but we were on a whole other team."
yeah, totally. And he lives, I don't know, like a couple out. He lives up in Mammoth Lakes, I think, right?
Yep.
Still. So
Yeah, so we're,
yeah,
like, 3 hours away.
yeah, pretty funny. I mean, both came up in TNF and then end up at Hoka. There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, didn't the story go maybe I got this totally wrong, but you wore pit vipers or something and then they reached out too or some is there something with that?
N no, this was yeah, this is kind of funny, but I have been wearing I actually started wearing pit vipers at Speed Goat because Mally got 2nd, and she was wearing heart-shaped sunglasses, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I love your sunglasses," and she said, "Do you want a pair?" And I said, "What?" And so, yeah, Spencer, her partner, is, like, the VP of brand, and so he started, like, sending me glasses, and then, he went on Dylan's podcast and accidentally misspoke and said that I was paid by them, and I am definitely not paid by them.
Yet.
Um, Yet. I am not paid by them yet, which is fine. I don't know, they're honestly the only sunglasses that I like wearing, so
Yeah, totally. And I mean right into the glitter, look good, feel good, race good type of mentality. So pretty funny.
I
Yeah.
think even, like, Tara said before Black Canyon, she was like, "If you're not wearing glitter, it means you don't wanna win."
I
I said,
mean,
"Ooh, yeah, that's
fair
kinda
enough.
fair."
Yeah, at least something that's different. I mean, you can't just wear generic, athletic, moisture-wicking clothing and expect to have a different than average result because that's what everyone else is wearing.
Yep. I'm just glad I figured out because this was the longest race that I've worn glitter for. Because CCC before, I just had, like, little face stickers because I was always worried about it, like, getting in my eye, and I'm like, "Man,
Mhm.
that would be such a dumb way to not do well." I got
Yeah,
glitter in my eye, but it's my glitter stayed perfectly, and I was sweaty all day, so
yeah. What would the Instagram post be if you had to DNF because, like, a glitter got in your eye? Write it for us right now.
oh, man, I was, like, really sad to report that, my day didn't go that well. I feel like I'd started super serious, and you would maybe think, like, I was out of running forever, like, got a piece of plastic in my eye. The glitter didn't go good.
Yeah, self-induced DNF, everything
Yeah,
was good.
until
Legs
it
feel great.
wasn't.
Yeah, been in the hospital for 2 days here getting glitter removed from my eye.
I've actually gone blind in my right eye now.
Well, yeah, that might open up a whole new avenue of, content then, I guess.
Yeah.
Man, watch out, big glitter. So, I wanna go into another thing that I did a little bit of research, more than, I like to let on usually, but so you also are really into yoga. I wanna hear about
Mhm.
the balance of that and how that, like, going from something fast, like trail running and yoga, which is probably very centering. I wanna hear about kind of the balance and getting into that and how that's a part of your life.
Yeah, I started doing yoga in high school, because of my cross country coach. She was like, "Helen, you need to stretch, like, you're gonna not be okay." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then I won a, YMCA membership for my whole family through, like, a community winter run. And so I started going to yoga at the YMCA in Reading, where I'm from, and then my senior year of high school, I didn't have a first period, and so I started going to a different yoga studio, and I think everyone there was, like, over the age of 60. Which, I don't know, I thought it was pretty good for me, and then, in college, I, like, kept saying, I was like, "Oh, well, like, maybe then someday I'd like to be a yoga instructor." I feel like that would be cool, 'cause I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was going to school, and then I kind of had the thought of, like, "Well, why can't I just do that now? Like, why do I have to wait?" And so it was, the summer between my freshman and my sophomore year of college, I went to yoga school over summer in Santa Cruz. My aunt lives there, so I got to stay with her, and then I would just, like, run to and from the studio, and that was my training, and then I'd be at yoga school all day, and yeah, it was super fun, and then I started teaching pretty much right after that, and then living in Truckee, like, I found a yoga studio, Flow, which I absolutely love. I love that place, like, everyone there is so great, and I, like, feel like that's where I found my sense of community, like, when I, because I think that's mostly where I was finding my sense of community, like, throughout my whole life was through running, and then when I wasn't running and I lived in Truckee, that's kind of how I found my community was through yoga, and yeah, I don't know, I was there, like, every single day, and then it was, like, the whole COVID thing. So, I still this past year, I, gave up my weekly class just because I was gone so much, but I still sub there, and I still go there, and yeah, I feel like it really helps with running and not being injured.
Yeah. Is it Kundalini yoga? Is that the
I
thing?
that's not what I teach. I teach Vinyasa Flow, but I started going to Kundalini, and I feel like that has been, like, the biggest life-changing practice that I've experienced. Like, I went to a class, and I feel like I can get it sometimes when I'm running, but, like, you get empty brain. You're like, "No thoughts, just whatever I'm doing, just jog." And I haven't really been able to find that in anything else until I went to Kundalini, and then it was like, there's no thoughts, it's just empty brain, and it's, like, the
Wow.
craziest thing. I'm like, I don't want to leave, like, the place where I am sitting, and then also, like, some of the kriyas that we do, like, your arms are above your head for 7 minutes, and, like, you cannot tell me that anything we do in running is harder than that.
Totally. So describe it. What is, like, Kundalini yoga?
Yeah, so it is like a set of, or it's a you get kriyas, and then kriyas are like a set of different postures and breaths that are linked to like get intended outcomes. And then they're like said to be passed down to us like from God. And so, like, there's kriyas for literally anything. Like, if you want, like, more focus or more joy or whatever, like, there's a whole book of them. And then it's different postures that are usually, like, between 3 to 7 minutes, and then they, like, lead up to a longer one. And there's, like, chanting in it, but most of the time it's seated. There's, like, there's some postures that aren't, and yep, that's it.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
cool. I'd like yeah, that's not the yoga that I really teach. I mean, I incorporate some of the stuff into my classes, but that's I feel like one of the cool things about yoga is, like, there's so many different kinds. I feel like there's something for everyone.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just that I don't know, I just back to the earlier point of just, like, running and having something else in life too, and going back to you with college too, when one thing's your identity or if a running result is what matters the most. I mean, you gotta have that balance too, I think is so important, and it can be with the job, but having something else where you move your body, I think is probably really important.
Yeah, and I think trail running generally, like, I think there's a lot of community to, like, be found in it, but it is kind of like a isolating sport, I guess. I mean, I always think that, like, more people in Truckee would run, but there actually, like, aren't a ton of us. Um,
Yeah.
and so I feel like I also, yeah, get, like, the community benefit from yoga too.
Yeah, trail running's so interesting because you're out there and you can pass hikers or even snowshoers, depending on the time of year, skiers. But it's like you don't really incorporate or interact with those other communities that are almost the same. And trail running is just a very small little niche that we think is so important and so big.
I know. Yeah, but it's fun. I don't know. I mean, and then I guess, like, out of, like, geographic area, like, the community is bigger, but I feel like it's just, like, super spread out. Like, my friends, I feel like, are all over the world instead of, like,
Mhm.
in Truckee.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a cool thing about the size of the trail running world is, like, it's very international, you can know people all over, but in any one spot, it's not huge, I
Yeah.
guess, compared to, like, road running or marathons or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and wanna shift to because it's really fascinating to hear about the differences to what it was like racing in Europe for CCC, just the energy, the difference, the aid stations. Yeah, what is that like for everyone listening?
Yeah, my first race in Europe was actually Marathon de Mont Blanc,
Oh, yeah.
which was, the same year. I went to France twice, which was kind of a lot, but Uh, yeah, it's just so different. It's crazy because I feel like when you get to steep things in the US, they just become unrunnable, like, either because they're loose or sandy or just, like, too technical once you start getting to, like, that percentage of grade, and then in Europe, it's like, in theory, if I were fit enough, I could run up all of this, but I'm not, and so I do have to hike, but in theory, I could, which is, like it's just such buffed out trail like, at least where Marathon du Mont Blanc and,
Uh-huh.
like, those races go. Um, yeah, I don't know. I also love Orangina so much, and it's, like, so crazy that you think you're so deep out somewhere, and then all of a sudden you're like, "And there's a hut where they accept credit cards." Like, I could buy anything here. This is nuts.
Yeah, I've seen, like, the videos or reels or whatever of them, like, delivering a bunch of stuff by, like, helicopter to huts way out there and stuff.
Yeah, I've always thought about it, like, could you imagine, like, being at the top of Whitney, and then it's just, like, there's a whole cafe up there? Like, that would be nuts. But,
Yeah.
I don't know, I've enjoyed racing in Europe. It's definitely I mean, I haven't raced a ton over there. I ran one race before I DNF'd UTMB this year over in Switzerland, and that was super cool. There were, like, a bunch of people out on the streets cheering, and, like, we won cheese and wine and a giant check, which was cool, and it was just, like, this small race in, like, I don't know, a tiny town, which was pretty cool. So it just seems like there's, like, races every weekend wherever, and I don't know, I feel like that's pretty cool. It seems like there's a pretty big trail running community out there.
Yeah, and it seems like there's true fans too. People just wanna come out and cheer that might not be runners themselves.
Yeah, there's a woman who I don't know, but her and her whole family made, like, posters of my face.
They
I was
wow,
like,
they
they
went through the
painted
effort.
me. I was like, "Man, I didn't even finish the race," but I was like, "That's cool." Like, that was sweet.
Did you get a picture or something? You should
Yeah,
take a selfie with
they sent me I didn't see them in person, but she, like, sent me a photo of it. She's like, "We're just big fans." And I'm like, "That is so sweet." I'm like,
wow.
"I don't know who you guys are."
Wow, that's amazing. That's so different than here. That's crazy.
Yes. I know, so
Yeah.
I feel like at home, like, I don't know, when I had other jobs, I would, like, never start with the, like, "Oh, I'm a trail runner." I would start with literally any other job I had, and now
Uh-huh.
that it's my only job, I'm like, "I guess I have to tell you." And people are like, "You can do that for work?" And I'm like, "Right? I don't know."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just the things that lead to more questions than answers, but
Yeah, like, sports marketing. I'm in sports marketing, but don't ask me too many questions about it because I don't have answers.
my job is to market myself and help a company sell products. There you go. That's actually a really funny way to frame it. You could just start saying that elevator pitch.
Yeah.
I run also as well to showcase the products, but
Yep.
yeah. And so I guess well, actually last question on that. What is I've heard that aid stations are pretty sparse of what we would normally have. It's mostly like cheese and stuff.
Yeah, and meats and fruits. I don't I have, like, a pretty not chill stomach generally. And so I usually just bring, like, all of my own stuff. So I haven't really had, like, the opportunity. I feel like actually that's one of the biggest lies I was ever told about ultra running is that you get to, like, hang out at aid stations and sit down, and I was like, "I have never actually gotten to do that." You can't typically, if you're going to run fast, you don't actually get to hang out.
Yeah, you're not like getting there and having them make you a sandwich or turn it into a panini and eat it
No, I
while
feel
you're
like half the
waiting.
time I'm, like, not even looking at, like, the different food options. I'm like, "Do you have Coca-Cola?"
Yeah. Yeah, everyone I coach is just like, "No, just stick to the foods you've always used. Worry about what you actually wanna eat later."
Yeah.
But for yeah, someone, I don't know who it is, put out that thing of it's basically an eating competition or whatever, and it's like, that's actually doesn't really feel like what it is anymore.
No, it's like who can somehow consume, like, the most sugar and still run.
Yeah, who's the best at tricking their body into just eating the most without knowing it in, like, the packet of a gel or in their own water or something? It's like, there's very little actually eating anything hard.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe now you just have to run 200 miles to get to do that.
Well, I do the 200s too, and I
Oh,
don't
no.
think yeah, I don't think it's like that at all, actually, still.
Like, man.
Everything's too fast. I got no good news for you, actually.
Oh, okay, so never mind. It's all just a big lie. I don't know, maybe we just have to slow down, I guess.
I think for April Fools, you should put out that instead of, since I've declined 2 golden tickets, I'm actually looking at doing Cocodona 250 before I do my first 100 miler or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was after I ran a VK at Broken Arrow, right after that, I was like, I never need to feel that way. I think I'd like to sign up for Tahoe 200." And my coach was like, let's maybe wait a few years before you decide to bury your soul on the rim trail." And I said, "Yeah, okay, that's actually fair."
Man, yeah, like 2 mile or couple mile VK straight to 200 miler because it was too hard for,
I was like,
35, 40 minutes.
I never wanna breathe that hard again."
VKs are so hard. Yeah, you just feel like your body's gonna die.
The whole time.
Yeah, it starts fast and only gets worse.
Yeah, although, I don't know, I said because I ran, the Mammoth uphill race too, and after that, I kept saying to myself, "No uphill races," and I was like, "NUR, like, I need to get this tattooed above my knee, so when I look down, I know, no uphill races," and then this year I ran 2.
So you're either a bad learner or a really slow learner.
I think I just forget, except I ran the Mount Baldy 5K, which isn't, like, a
Okay.
proper VK, um But that was actually, like, probably the most fun I had at, like, any race this year, so, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't count them out.
Yeah, was it what made it actually fun?
I think it was, like, after I had DNF'd UTMB, and I was just, like, so tired training for that and, like, not that stoked, and it was just, like, so chill, but so fun. Um, yeah, and I mean, it's a 5K, so it doesn't take that long, and it was like, "Okay, I just have to wheeze uphill for however many minutes." I think it was probably, like, 30 something, and then you got to take a chairlift down in the dark off the top of the mountain, so that was really cool.
Yeah, while you get cold or something,
Yeah,
but
well, I feel like they just, like, did a good job organizing it and, like, making it, like, a super fun, like,
Mhm.
community thing, like, there was a barbecue at the top and, like, a photo booth, it was just fun.
Yeah, that is cool. Actually, yeah, for you, I was pacing Bigfoot 200 one time, and they had, like, a Barbie-themed photo booth that you could get your photo with, like, your pacer or whatever in there, so maybe they do have more fun at the 200s.
Yeah. Okay, so uphill races are 200s, I don't know, nothing in between.
That's it. I think that's the move. Just that. So, the last thing I wanna talk about or chat with you on is, well, maybe 2 more things, but, the Tahoe to Yosemite route and what was so my girlfriend's actually really intrigued by that route, so I was wondering what initially got you intrigued by it. I know you didn't end up doing it, but just wanted to hear about what you thought of it when you're
Yeah.
planning.
I mean, it's still on the list of, like, things that I would love to do, but, yeah, I didn't it that was so crazy. I, like, had planned it out because North Face gave us, like, budget to do a project, like, with our mentor, and Caitlin Gerben was my mentor, and, like, she's done some, like, more fast packy stuff, and so we were, like, trying to figure something out, and I had this budget for it, and I planned the whole trip because I thought it looked so cool, like, just the concept of getting dropped off to because the whole trail's 170 miles, but then it's another 30 miles to my house, and so I was just gonna run, like, the full 200 because, like, I don't know, I think, like, the concept of getting dropped off somewhere and, like, being able to run to my front door is super cool. Um, and then actually leading up to it, I had a dream. I had, like, a that it just I don't know, like, everything was falling apart and, like, all of my dreams normally are, like, super realistic, like, it's not things that couldn't happen in real life, and this one was, like, I am running through like, like, the typical, like, I'm running and I'm not moving
Mhm.
thing, like, that was happening, and I was like, "Man, like, this seems silly, but, like, it just doesn't feel right," and, like, I was dealing with some Achilles thing, which I had never dealt with before, and it was, like, just a culmination of all of these things that, like, just were pointing to, like, "Don't do it." Um, and I didn't, and then I figured out my Achilles thing, and then I ran Speed Goat instead, and then I got sponsored by Hoka, so I feel like it kind of worked out. Because at the end of the day, like, that trail's still gonna be there till the day I die and way beyond that. Because also it had snowed a bunch, and so Tioga Pass to get to the start wasn't even
Mhm.
open, and so I'm, like, trying to plan, like, "Okay, I bet I could bike in with all of my stuff,
Oh
and
my
then I
gosh.
think I could post hole for this long, and I think it'll be okay." But then my grandpa has hiked the JMT a bunch, and it follows that for a lot of it.
Mhm.
And he was like, I would be worried about all of the river crossings."
Yep.
And I said, "Yeah, this sounds like I'm gonna die."
Yeah, especially if you're bringing that up and your grandpa's like, "Actually, I think you're even worried about the wrong things." That
Yeah, he's like,
is not
"Your Achilles, not a problem, you're gonna drown."
yeah, that Achilles won't even hurt by the time you're a goner.
Yeah, so it just didn't, like, quite seem like the right time, but I would still like to do it someday. It seems really cool and, like, I don't know, that trail seems really cool.
Totally. Yeah, did you, like, get out and try some fast packing and stuff in the lead up to it?
Nope.
You're just
That
gonna
was the other
go
thing. I was kinda like, "Ah, I think we're gonna make." Well, because 'cause I'd also kinda figured out I was gonna do it, like, mildly supported, and
Mhm.
so I was like, "Well, if I have car passes here, here, and here," or, like, mountain passes where cars can go, like, I don't actually think I have to sleep that I think it was only one night that I was gonna have to, like, carry my own stuff to sleep too. 'cause, like, it's spaced out. If you can, like, do big enough days, it's spaced out well enough that, like, or where all the passes are that I don't know, logistically, it seems somewhat easy.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, if you get the right time of year, especially. The trick in that area too, I've actually done the PCT 3 times and the John Muir Trail 5 times, so I know the area really good, but the trick is, like, fire season shortens it on one side, snow lengthens it on the other side, and then the melt season, so the rivers, it's, like, a tricky window to find for that trail too.
Yeah, 'cause then if you, like, go too late, it's like, "And there's no water."
Yep, no water or, like, yeah, wildfire could happen anytime too, but it's really cool. I mean, Yosemite in general and the prospect of running all the way home from Yosemite is just a really cool storyline.
Yeah, I thought it would be cool too. I don't know, there's, like, I feel like the list of, like, all the trails and all the things to do just, like, keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Totally. Yeah, what are some other ones on the list?
Um, I mean, the evolution loop, it's not technically a loop, it's a horseshoe because 'cause I've, like, looked at it, and everyone who said if you do make it a loop, it's actually just not worth it. Um, and so, like, that looks super cool. I think I'll be able to figure out how to do that this summer, like, as a training run, because it's 37 miles. It's, like, a long 37 miles, I think probably, like, 8 or 9 hours, probably closer to 9, but that, I've, like, always wanted to do the Tahoe Rim Trail, but I don't think it's time for that quite yet either because it's kind of long. Um, yeah, I've run rim to rim, but I'd like to do it I know, I always forget, I'm like, "How many do you go back and forth?" But I'd like to do it again, and I'd like to do it a bit faster than I did, but
Mhm.
yeah, there's just always so many things. I'd like to do the JMT too, but once again, also not quite time for that.
Yeah. Do you have, like, FKT aspirations or just some of these for the experience type thing and more racing for the competition?
I think both. I think that it's kind of naive to go into, like, those longer things not doing it once first to then go after an FKT. Um, so I don't know, I feel like that'd be, like, a fun thing to start is, like, go do it, chill, and just kind of get a feel for what it actually is, and then try to go
Yeah.
do it fast.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best way to set anything up. It's just like running, not wanting your
Mhm.
first one to be Western States. It's the exact same thing as doing an the FKT route before the FKT. It's knowing what you're doing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess one last thing to sneak in here. So, you have a pretty cool, I like your YouTube. How do you come up with the topics to talk about on there?
Oh, man, sometimes it's a struggle. My boyfriend helps me a lot, and I feel like it'll 'cause I've been, like, trying to put out a video once a week, and so then I'm just like, "Hmm," or sometimes I just, like, see something and honestly, like, something will kinda piss me off, and then I'm like, "Well, I feel like I could talk about that for at least 20 minutes." Or I don't know, it's like whatever I start thinking about during a run, and I'm like, "Yeah, I think I could think about that more."
Yeah. And what's the setup to film it? Because it's really smooth, the audio is good, but it looks like you don't have anything on you.
Yeah, I do. I have, like, one of those Rode mics, that just has
Okay,
a
okay.
lavalier, and then I usually just, either connect it to, like, my sports bra except sometimes my shirt moves, and then that makes, like, audio not great, but if I'll just, like, connect it there, and then, um, Jacob Banta is my boyfriend, so he's, like, a professional photographer and videographer, and so that helps so much. There's, like, no way that I would be able to do this, so he has, like, a camera on a gimbal, and then also wears a mic, and then he usually shoots, like, while riding a one wheel.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, cause well, we found it's, like, a little I mean, I don't know, but he says it's a little bit easier than, like, trying to ride a bike because then at least you have both of your hands.
Okay.
And so during winter, it's been pretty chill because 'cause I'm only running on, like, paths anyways, or even during summer, like, dirt roads work. We haven't quite gotten to single track.
on a one wheel
Yeah,
while
that
he's
feels like
trying to film.
that feels like kind of a big ask.
Yeah, so hear me out. There's this really cool trail. It's a
Yeah.
little technical.
Well, I feel like it helps a lot too because generally, like, before this started, like, if you ask me to speak to a camera, like, we made a few videos for, Hoka, like, leading up to Mount Baldy, and it was painful. Like, the amount of times that I had to redo it, and he was like I, like, just talk normal. I'm like, I can't remember a single thing, like, I can't do this." But then I feel like once I'm running, I feel like I talk so much when I run anyways, like, anyone who runs with me, I feel like sometimes I just don't shut up, and so I feel like then if I'm running, it just feels like I'm running with Jacob, and so it's fine.
Yeah, and okay, so these videos, if you haven't seen them, they're like, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes long around
Mhm.
there. And so before you start filming, does he say anything? What's the prep? Because you kind of just like you get it and you're going and it works and it's not many edits. Yeah. Is there
Yeah.
any more to it than that?
No, not really. I mean, I feel like sometimes, like, I have, like, a list of, like, things that I want to talk about, and then sometimes I'll, like, try to think them through, like, a run before of, like, okay, like, these are the things that I want to hit, like, while I'm talking, but no, I'm just kind of
Yeah.
going for it, and that is the nice thing is I'm not very good at, video editing. I've gotten better, but I've learned a lot, but it's pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really impressive, and it's also impressive that you know the perfect pace to run so that your voice isn't, like, going all over the place, so you're breathing too hard.
I end up wheezing way more often. I run faster while filming those than I do pretty much any other time because I feel like I either get, like, excited or, like, heated about something, and then I'm like, "Man, I'm running, like, 7:30 pace." And I'm like, "Jacob, we need to slow down." And he's like, "You set the pace. Like, you just slow down." I was like, "But I feel like I'm chasing you." I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's good psychology too of maybe that's how you could run your intervals of just chasing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I end up running so much faster than I normally run.
Yeah, okay, that makes some sense because I was like, "Wow, that's a really good pace for just, like, a 20-minute monologue."
Yeah, nope, don't normally run that fast.
Cool. Well, yeah, I guess is alright. So you have Broken Arrow this year, and that's gonna be an incredibly competitive field, so
I'm so excited.
yeah. So, like, Grayson Murphy, Jen Lichter, Tabor Hemming, Addie Bracy, I'm missing a bunch of people, but that's a start. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, like, with the way Broken Arrow sets it up too, like, you have to commit, and then you maybe not might not show up, so my fingers are crossed that, like, everyone on that start list, like, shows up super healthy and, like, ready to run fast. I love that race. I feel like it helps, like, because I live there too, and so, like, I know the course, but I
Yeah.
think it makes it so much fun because it's, like, essentially my hometown race, and so, like, I know all the volunteers and I know, like, all the people that put on the race and, like, it's just so fun. I feel like every year I've either raced or volunteered and, like, yeah, that's one of my favorite races. I feel like most of the time I don't like going back to the same place, but I feel like that's always a race that I'm stoked to go back to.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just a really cool race and competitive and just kinda sneaks in right before Western States too that
Mhm.
a lot of people are already out there.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. What else do you have on the calendar?
Yeah, so then after that, I tried to get into Leadville through the lottery and I didn't get in. But for some reason, I don't know what it is, like, I have always wanted that to be my first 100 miler. I feel like I got a little off track with trying UTMB, but, like, back on it. And so they actually added a qualifier in Tahoe.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it's a 50K, I think it's called, like, Tahoe Trail, and it's mid-July, and I don't know, you have to run a 50K to get into a 100 miler, which I personally think makes no sense, but I think I can get top 3 in a 50K. So, I'm gonna do that to qualify for Leadville, and then there's a new local race, like, up on Donner Summit, called Mountain Tiger that Alice Curley's putting on, and it's like 11 miles point to point, like on one of my favorite trails. So I'm gonna do that the week after, and then yeah, hopefully Leadville and then Kodiak.
Cool. Yeah.
Probably 100K. I haven't quite figured that out.
Yeah, that's just funny. A 50K, it's like run the fastest 100-meter dash at the Olympics, and you also get to run the marathon.
Right. I don't quite understand it, but I'm also thankful because I'm like, it's I don't know, it's like the month I think almost exactly a month before Leadville, and so I think anything longer would be a little hard, but
Yeah.
I think a 50K is fine.
It's a cool schedule too, because it's, like, very close to home for most of it too.
Yeah, which was the plan. I feel like last year I spent 6 weeks in France, and then
Oof.
I also went to Spain, like, for Transvolcania. And I love where I live. I think it's, like, one of the greatest places ever, and so I decided I would like to spend a little bit more time there this year just because, like, the past 3 years I've gone to France, which is, like, always such a cool experience, but I also wanted to be home, but also take advantage of, like, the travel budget I have, so hence why I'm in New Zealand, so, like, 1 big trip a year and then mostly staying at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, you meant to say, "Truckee's awful, no one should move there."
Yeah,
It's
no,
bad.
bad snow, bad trail running. It's not nice at all.
Yeah, bad summers, bad winters, bad
I
year-round.
don't know why anyone's there. Do we not
Yeah,
remember the
really.
Donner Party, guys?
Yeah, if you wanna know one thing about Truckee is that Donner Lake's there, and it's named after that tough wagon train, so
Yeah, so I would stay far, far away.
yeah, RIP. Well, thanks for joining, this was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Three Outside Show. Well, the Free Outside Show. So you can like, subscribe. That really helps, and subscribe on YouTube. Those numbers, if those go up, that's good for us. So it's just Free Outside over there. All these things are there. You should play them in the background for your pets, so we get more watch hours. And with that, guys, I need to go to bed. Stay late, my friends.